Everybody, we're back with another investing Q&A at Poteco Talks.
What's up, Mire? How are you?
What's up? So, Fede, I got this notification on my phone the other day about my Apple High Yield Savings Card account that I have. So, it told me that the APY, which I don't know what it stands for, annual percentage
Yield.
yield, there you go, went down. So when I signed up for the card, the APY was I think it was like 4.6, and now it went down to 4.4 annually. So I was trying to figure out, why did that get lower?
That's a great question, Mire. And it is reasonable to expect that the yield on your high yield savings account will go down over the next year, call it. So, and I'll explain why in a sec. So first, I think it's important to understand what a high yield savings account is.
Yes, please
And
explain.
what are its drivers, what are the alternatives, and then basically what you can expect from it and how you should consider using it to your favor. And because you always give me the feedback that my explanations are too technical,
I do.
I thought long and hard how I can make this relatable. So here it goes. I need you to pretend that you are a 29-year-old single woman who lives in Miami and potentially spends some time in New York. Okay?
So I'm pretending. Cool. All
So let's
right.
just pretend you're that person. Okay?
Okay. We're pretending.
And your money is your currency, and banks are the universe of available men out there. Okay?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Okay. So you have some dudes who are money center banks, which are like the big ones, Bank of America, Chase. And you have other
Okay.
dudes who are your high yield savings account. Okay. Now, what makes a high yield savings account? Right?
Hey, what are the quality of those men? I would love to know.
So I'm going to get to it. So first of all, what makes an account high yield, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no specific number that makes it high yield, because the truth is that banks will pay you on your deposits anywhere from close to zero. So like a Chase will pay you 0.01%. Then you have, like you mentioned, the Apple account or Capital One, which right now will pay you, I think, around 4.5%, call it.
Yeah.
And then you have
So you're depositing money, just to interrupt you for a second, you're depositing money there, and on a monthly basis, they're giving you money back just for having your money in their account.
Correct. So the range can be very broad. It will be close or up to what's called the Fed funds rate, which is the rate set by the Central Bank of the United States. It's that rate at which banks lend to each other their reserves. So call it the safest form of lending that a financial institution can have is close to that Fed funds rate. So what they will pay you is something beneath that for your deposits, right? They have to make money off of what they're paying you. So they have to, at the very least, compensate you something less than what the Fed funds rates are. Okay.
So the Fed is giving the bank money.
So basically the Fed sets an interest rate, and then the banks will lend their reserves amongst them at that Fed funds rate. So it's the safest way of them earning money.
Gotcha. Between each other, though.
Exactly. Amongst banks that have their reserves at the Federal Reserve.
Okay.
Now, where do we come in? Where does the consumer come in? Basically, that money that they'll make on their savings account, anywhere from zero. Right now, Fed funds rate are 5.25%. So anywhere from 0 to 5.25%. Okay. Now, how do the interests work? Think of the interest or the yield that you're getting as the characteristics or the effort that banks will make to basically get your deposits. If we go to our dating example, think of it as the effort that the guy will put forth to make himself more attractive and more charming to you. Okay?
Okay, can you give me an example of the characteristics?
Okay, so let's suppose, I don't know, first date, and he could do something very casual, like, I don't know, take you out for coffee. Or he can do something very cool, like, I don't know, go to the park followed by a concert at the park.
Oh, I like that. So which one is the high yield savings guy?
So high yield savings guy is the guy who made the effort. He took you to a park, took you to a concert. So you're getting really compensated for your attention, right?
Mm.
Guy who pays you nothing on your deposit, so big money center banks, just took you out to coffee. Nothing wrong with that. But let's
Nothing
just say
wrong with
that
that. Simple.
he put less effort, and that's that. Now,
Yeah.
why do money center banks pay you less on deposits? Right? So why does Chase pay you so little? Right? Why does that guy can afford to only take you out for coffee on the first date instead of doing something more grandiose?
Mm-hmm.
Think about the big money center banks as that guy who has like an amazing reputation. Mr. Perfect, checks all the boxes, right? Your parents will love him. He's like really accomplished, professionally great, cool dude, attractive, checks all the boxes. So naturally, he has a lot of people that want to date him, right? He also offers a lot of diversified services, right? He can be supporting. He can he can hold his weight financially. So he just has a lot to offer. So what that ends up doing is that because he's so great, right, and has a lot of people wanting his services and or his attention or whatever, he doesn't need to put forth as much effort or doesn't have to compensate you as much. Nothing wrong with it, right? He makes up for it elsewhere. But naturally, because he's such a good candidate and he's such a good player, he doesn't pay you as much. That is Chase, right? Chase has branches and Bank of America. They have branches. They have all type of, they have consumer banks, commercial banks, investment banks. So they have all these services. That means that to get they have a lot of deposits, i.e. a lot of attention, so that they don't have to pay you as much for your attention.
That makes sense.
Or your deposits.
It's giving like mediocre hot guy. Cool.
Basically. No, he's still a good guy. He's just like, he makes up for it elsewhere. Like, he doesn't have to compensate you as much on a first date.
Gotcha.
Because he's just great elsewhere.
Okay.
Now
what about high yield savings guy?
Exactly. Now your high yield savings guy. This is the online bank, right? This is your Capital One. This is your Apple Bank, which you don't have a branch that you see. They don't offer you a mortgage.
Capital One actually has cafes, and they give you cafes with coffee with discounts. But
well, that's good. I'm sure they have other good characteristics about them. But basically, since he doesn't check all the boxes, right? Think about this is like the younger guy, right? The guy there's kind of like a kink there, but he doesn't really check all the boxes. And he
treats you amazing. He treats you amazing. Is that what it is?
He treats you amazing, and he really pays you a lot on your deposits because he has to compensate.
Big question.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a big bank or a high yield savings dude? You knew that question was coming, obviously.
I mean, it's in the eye of the beholding eye. I could be one thing for somebody and another thing for somebody else.
What would you consider yourself to be?
I want to think I can be both. Depends on the moment in time.
Hey guys, Fede thinks he's both. He's like the best of both worlds. He is the attractive big bank, but he can also
give it to me.
He also gives you everything you want and more. So he's both. There you go.
You see, I like how you're framing it. But in all honesty, so because a Capital One doesn't have that many services, they have to compete more for your attention and your deposits. So they end up paying you that 4.4, 4.5%, call it, on your deposits. Now,
why does it fluctuate?
So why does it fluctuate?
When I signed up, it was 4.5, and now it's let's say 4.3.
So remember we mentioned the Fed funds rate. Think about the Fed funds rate as kind of the trendsetter. Like what is cool, what is not. It's the benchmark rate that everything compares to it, right? So what makes somebody a high yield savings account, or call it a big money center bank that pays you very low on your deposits, will all be relative to this benchmark rate, the Fed funds rate. So right now, that's why I always like the Fed funds rate is important for everything, not only for what it pays you on your high yield savings account, but also what other assets are priced off of it. But let's sticking to this point specifically. If the Fed fund rates goes lower, then these banks will pay you less, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they'll adjust what their APY based on a lot of conditions, economic conditions, their funding needs, for example, but it will closely track the Fed funds rate. So that's why it will have an impact on your high yield savings account.
So if the Fed rate lowers or changes, do all high yield savings account also change their APY rates, or does it just depend on like the need of each of them?
Correct. So if the Fed funds rate 1 year from now, so people are projecting the Fed funds rate to be lower 1 year from now. They're expecting the Fed to cut anywhere from 2 to 3 times rates this year by 25 basis points, which is 0.25%. So if it ends up the year 0.75% lower than it is right now, which means that it will be at 4.5%, you can expect your high yield savings account to pay you beneath that. It could be 4, it could be 3.5, right? So it will adjust.
And for now, we still recommend that everyone keeps their rainy day fund in a high yield savings account, though, regardless if it's lower than what it was 6 months ago, let's say.
So you have insurance on your deposits up to $250,000. So you want to make sure that you have as much as you can in this high yield savings account. But going back to the example of dating, you do want to play the field. So you might want to have some money in these big money center banks, right? At least the minimum to not pay fees, because that relationship might come in handy when you want to settle down. But you want as much as you can in these high yield savings account that give you that thrill, that gives you that, that makes life worth living. And if anybody's wondering what happens if you believe in getting married, this analogy completely falls apart.
Okay, so cool. It only works if you imagine yourself as a single 29-year-old.
Exactly. Now,
all right, big shot.
Do we understand high yield savings accounts?
We understand it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.